You will hear part of a lecture on British cinemas given to students on a film and cinema course. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 8. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully to the lecture and answer questions 1 to 8.
Good morning and welcome to my third lecture on the history of British cinema. In previous lectures we looked at the differences between British and American films and at the origins of the British film industry. Today we're going to examine British cinemas and audience figures. Those of us who grew up in the 60s and 70s got used to hearing about the decline or even the death of British cinema. Audiences shrank and cinemas closed, reaching an all-time low in 1984 when the total number of seats sold was only 54 million. So it's somewhat surprising to note the revival which the cinema has been undergoing in recent years. Audiences are growing steadily, although they're never likely to reach the figures of the years leading up to 1950. When cinema attendance was at its height. In the best year, 1946, more than 1,600 million tickets were sold. There are various factors behind this revival, especially the importation of multiplex cinemas from the United States. These are cinemas with 5 or more screens. The first one opened in Milton Keynes in 1985, and there are now well over 100 across the country. They have a particular advantage in that they allow flexibility of programming, which means they can cater to the tastes of a much wider public than the old super cinemas of the 30s and 40s. In the 60s and 70s, many people stopped going to the cinema, not just because of the competition from television, but also because of the decline in public transport, the difficulty of driving into city centres in the evening, and fear of crime in city centres. Generally, moreover, the type of film which was shown no longer attracted family audiences. Many featured explicit sex and violence, and were primarily designed to appeal to young adults, particularly males and particularly lower middle class, the type of people who are still prepared to make the effort to get to the cinema. The multiplex cinema of the 1990s, with its multiple screens, has changed that, because it allows cinemas to show an enormous variety of films that appeal to a far wider cross-section of the population. Furthermore, multiplex cinemas were constructed outside city areas, very often in shopping complexes with free parking and improved security. This reason for their success is similar to that of the super cinemas of the 1930s and 40s, which were located on bus routes to make it easy for the public to get to them. Another factor which partly accounts for the cinema's recent success has been the re-emergence of a cinema-going habit, which was common in the 30s and 40s, but which later disappeared. In recent decades, a conscious attempt has been made to revive this by screening films aimed specifically at children and teenagers, who, it's hoped, will continue to go to the cinema as they grow up, though obviously to see other types of film. In the 90s, multiplexes also began to offer a whole range of leisure facilities geared towards...
That is the end. You now have half a minute to check your answers.